7, application at land at Whitby Road, Pickwick.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application for a minor material amendment to a scheme which was approved last year on the Whitby Road site at Pickering from David Wilson Homes. And as the report sets out, the planning permission, which was a full planning permission granted last year, was for 239 new dwellings, Chairman. As part of that scheme, at the time, the original proposal was proposed and approved for. Part of the scheme involved the demolition of the existing farmhouse on the site. This minor material amendment application seeks to retain the farmhouse on the site, and as a result of that, there are changes to the layout, specifically in that northwestern corner of the site, Chairman, which are listed on the description. So you've got a list of what the detailed changes are. But what we have done on the agenda papers is give you a comparison of what was approved by way of the layout on page 46. And then on the very next page, on page 47, you can see what's being proposed at this stage. And on page 47, you have plan revision Z, and the red dot on that plan is the farmhouse. So that's the building that currently is on the site, that's currently proposed to be retained, and that has led to minor revisions to the adjacent 6 plots to the east, to the north of the main distributor road, and also 3 plots further to the south of the existing farmhouse. In terms of the house types, there are no new house types being proposed on the site. They're all as previously proposed, but particular concern was raised by a number of people and also by the Town Council in relation to the dwelling which is proposed immediately adjacent to the farmhouse, which was described as a 3-storey unit. This is a house type that was previously proposed on the site. There are only 4 plots that were proposed to use it, but it is a house type which is a relatively narrow span, but which retains rooms in the roof space, so it's almost like a 2.5-storey dwelling. But because of the narrowness of the span, actually the apex height of it is no higher than the adjacent 2-storey building, which is a squarer design. So in scale terms, it doesn't appear as a 3-storey dwelling as one might normally think of as 3-storey dwelling. The other main change associated with the retention of the farmhouse as it is the proposal to retain its garaging, which is close to the road frontage, and also an access point which is roughly 10 metres nearer to the main A169 than the first access point was on the earlier approved plan. So if you compare one plan with the other, you can see where the driveway position is. That did give some rise to local concerns about potential congestion at that point, potential concern about access for emergency vehicles at that point. The Highway Authority have obviously been consulted on this plan and raised no objection, but what I do have on the screen is a variant to Plan Z, which is in fact Plan Revision A2, which shows the frontage estate railings reduced to 0.6 metres in height of the ground, so that there is no impedance on vision from a lot of emerging vehicles from the driveway. So I'll show you that in a moment. You probably would have difficulty seeing it. As I say, there have been some objections raising the issues that I've just referred to, and also some of the objections have raised a concern about the loss of what they felt was an attractive open space at the entrance to the site from the Whitby Road. As you can see on page 46, the original scheme didn't have any new dwellings until after the entrance road distributed into 2. Whereas if you look on page 47 now, the open area still remains to the southern side, but obviously with the retention of the house and its garaging, the open area is less so there. I think we're getting into areas of sort of very fine judgment at this point, Chairman. When we dealt with the original application, which was proposing the demolition of the original farmhouse, we did think long and hard whether we were happy to see the original farmhouse be demolished, and on balance we went with that as an approach. Somewhat out of the blue, a month after we granted the planning permission, we then get an application to retain the farmhouse, so it's sort of back before us now, Chairman. But I'll show you some photographs now just to remind members of the site. Obviously this is the site where there was a site visit in any event. So this is the view from Whitby Road, and this is the, sorry for the darkness of these, I'll try and describe them as best I can. So this is the existing entrance to the site. Some trees near the site entrance which actually go as part of the scheme when the estate road goes in. From this point here, you can just see the outline of the profile of the existing house. So it's not hard on the road frontage, but you can see it from the adjacent highway. And this is panning round, and this is the curtilage of the neighbouring property. As you go a little bit further into the site, this is the sort of access parking area into the back of the house. And again, you see these trees which are actually removed, but this is the outline of the farmhouse, which is set back a little way from the road. And panning round, this is the garaging that would be retained on the frontage. So this is the view from within the site. So stood here, the new estate road would be somewhere in this area here, running roughly east-west, and this would be the view of the frontage of the house. And in this area here, adjacent to the estate road, originally the estate railings were proposed to be 1.2 metres high. They've been reduced down to 0.6, so that there's no impedance of vehicles or emerging vehicles. This is panning back to the garaging, and behind you can see the nearest properties in Whitby Road that are the other side of Whitby Road on the A169. Just give these for a little bit of context. This is a view from in front of the farmhouse, looking down past these existing farm buildings which would be demolished and removed. And in the distance you can see properties in Corby Way, as I pan round in Marshall Drive. So it's a very big site. This is just panning further round still. And this is looking back the other way. So in the distance you see the farm buildings I was just looking at, and just catch a glimpse of the farmhouse behind the trees. And this is a view across to the properties in Whitby Road. All of the changes are actually happening way off over here, near the site entrance. This is a view looking along the back gardens of Whitby Road, and although there would be houses in this area here, you can see the outline of the farmhouse that's proposed to be retained. This is the latest plan, Chairman, and it shows reduced railing heights in this area here. I think we've got a speaker.
Do we have a speaker for the agent? Oh, yeah.
Good evening, Chair and members. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. We fully support the recommendation of your officer in respect to this minor material amendment plan application. The changes that we're seeking to make to the approved development relate to a minor change to the entrance of the area of the development, an amendment that will not have any material impact on any existing residents. The purpose of the amendment relates to the retention of the existing farmhouse on the site. This is because following the approval of the original planning application, the landowner and their family now desire to remain in their family home. The council will recall that a number of local residents also desire the retention of the farmhouse in their response to the original planning application. As the officer report confirms, the scheme still includes the same number of new homes to be built at the site. The road layout remains unchanged from the original application. All of the proposed house types within the proposed replan area were all approved as part of the original planning application. The separation distances between existing residents and the proposed homes remain the same. While a small area of open space has been lost on the site's frontage, the development's main areas of public open space will still remain. The total amount of open space on the whole of the site is therefore still very substantial. proposed rooming roof house type in the replan area has already been approved in the original scheme, and it's the same height as a two-storey house adjacent to it. Proposed housing mix of 239 new build homes remains the same in respect of the number of 1, 2, 3 and 4 bedroom homes. The development will still deliver 35% affordable housing, equivalent to 83 affordable homes. Finally, as the officer's report and Gary's update has just confirmed, following discussions with your officer and James Kennedy of North Yorkshire County Council, we've responded directly to an issue raised by the Town Council in respect of highway visibility at the site entrance by reducing the height of the proposed knee rail boundary adjacent to the farmhouse to 600mm or 60 centimetres, so below the height you will see from driving a car, which now results in there being no issues or concerns raised by the highway authority in terms of the application. The approval of this minor material amendment application will tonight allow the development of the Whitby Road Pickering site to progress, and with it the many social and economic benefits the site can deliver, including, as referenced before, much needed affordable homes. We respectfully request that the application be approved in line with your officer's recommendation for approval. Thank you very much.
Nothing to come back on the Speaker's Chairman, just to draw members' attention to the house types that form part of this application. On page 51 is the house type that I referred to, that represent tools is referred to as a 3-storey dwelling. The front elevation on page 51 is the elevation that faces down the access roadway, and actually, to my mind, is actually quite an attractive view into the site. But as you can see, it's quite a narrow span unit, so the room in the roof space is, when you look at the apex height, the apex heights are actually no higher than the adjacent units, which are also shown on page 50, 49 and 48.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the officer? Councillor Carey.
Not a question, Mr. As I was Mr. Bidby, I have been lobbied on this, just for the record. Personal, non-prejudicial, non-pecuniary.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No? You've got a question, Councillor James?
Yes, thank you. When I've been reminded of how close the houses are to the back of Corby Way, I have friends up there. When I was there, I was speaking to one of them last week, who is talking about the one of them is to be sold, one of the houses, it's bungalow actually. I just wondered, it's beginning to have an effect on the value of the properties along there. I wonder, remember the land actually slightly rises above the bungalows when we went round there. I just wondered, is there really a sufficient distance between the new building and the bungalows?
Chairman, we're not here to discuss the changes on this. If members can just look at the screen here. This is Marshall Drive and Corby Way,
Yes.
where the red line is. The amendments are here. Yeah. So we're not here discussing any of the rest of it. That's what's already got planning permission. But members will recall that when we did the original site inspection, there were levels issues along the southern boundary, and that led to a lot of these units being required to be single storey. So they're all single storey in this area here, and I think roughly from here they're single storey. So there were some increased distances there where they're 2-storey, but in Corby Way all of those properties are single storey. So I don't have a precise dimension for you, but the fact that they're single storey next to single storey and there was boundary screening as well, I think that was what came out of the previous decision.
Right. Thank you very much, Gary.
Councillor Woodrow.
Thank you, Chairman. Just from memory from the last application, we were very clear when we passed the application. There were 2 specific plots that we were down at 133, 132 that had to be bungalows, and I'm not sure.
These two here.
Was that the? We're not sure they were. I thought they were further along.
Yeah, no. It was right next to the little square open space at the end, and these two ended up being bungalows here.
It's fine now.
Are there any further questions for the officer? not, we shall move into debate. I wonder whether Councillor Potter is local to the area but not local member will take it.
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Chair. I note from the description of the site that it's located to the north of properties in Corbin Way. So I'd be surprised at an outbreak of extreme socialism in Pickering, but that's just a minor point. I still have some quite serious concerns about this site. Certainly the single access to such a large estate and so on, but this application is not about those. So I can't see that there's any major overall change that we've got here, and if anything, there's probably a bit of an improvement with retaining the old farmhouse. I'd be slightly concerned about access for emergency vehicles, but I'm assured that that has been addressed, and certainly the railings to address the any sort of problems on visibility. So on the basis that this is merely an application for a relatively minor amendment, and there's no change in the number of houses or anything like that, then I can go for approval and move that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Goodrick.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just say I'm really pleased that they've decided to retain the farmhouse. I think it was a really nice building. It was a shame to see it go, and whilst I appreciated at the time, there were reasons for it going. I'm really pleased it's still here. So, and with the other amendments that the Planning Committee asked for on the first application when it came forward, I'm happy to support Councillor Potter's and move approval.
Thank you. Councillor Andrews.
Yes, Chair. I agree with much of what has been said, but I'm afraid I'm still unhappy about there being a single access to over 200 houses. I know this is not relevant to the application, but I'm not going to be part of this decision. I think this is such an appalling decision in the first place, which I know we cannot overturn, so I shall abstain.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? No. It has been moved and seconded for approval, so I shall put that to the vote. Thank you.